All right. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Welcome everyone. Benvenuti. We are broadcasting from Pollica, from the Center of Studies of Mediterranean Diet dedicated to Angelo Vassallo. Pollica is the capital and the UNESCO emblematic community of Mediterranean diet. And we are very glad to be here today, part of the G20 summit as a special event following the meetings happening now in Naples. During these days in Naples, the ministers of environment from the 20 most powerful countries in the world are coming together, and we strongly believe that food is the nexus of our society, and a lot of connections are part of the conversation when we're talking about energy, climate, environment, and life. We're very glad because our series of meetings are also part of another big agenda, that is the Connect for Climate initiative run together with our Italian governments to support the entire journey that is taking the global community to follow the COP26 gathering that is going to take place, first of all, in Italy in September, and then the big summit is going to take place in Glasgow. So our country put together an agenda called All for Climate Italy that is involving youth all around the country and all around the world to debate about the most critical issues related to climate change, and all the ecological transition that we need to accelerate. So our event, Food for Earth, is something that is trying to connect the dots. We started yesterday in Naples. Was interesting and exciting because we hear the voice of policymakers, of institutions, but also the voice of scientists. And scientists have shown us that the numbers are telling us really clearly that we need to act fast because we don't have more time. And we strongly believe that acting through food and changing the food system and making the food system more sustainable, more resilient, more inclusive is probably the starting point. So today we wanted to start to connect the dots with the very interesting topics that are part of the debate, the global debate, and the local community and youth. So this is the reason why we decided to run this agenda from Naples and then here in Pollica in the campus, where there are tons of youth, part of the activities that this campus is daily hosting. And I'm very glad because today I'm not alone. We have one of our great friends now in Rome, working hard to make the Pre-Food System Summit alive and connected. So we have here Paul Noonan from the SDG2 Advocacy Hub, the leader of the Chef Manifesto. And then I have three amazing women together with me here in Pollica from different parts of the world and with different roles, but three very important women for the food system at the local, national, and international level. So I'm really looking forward to start this conversation. And to start, I want to first of all involve Paul. I saw your pictures before. You were at the FAO headquarters, and yeah, those are pretty exciting because I know you just came from Australia and you are preparing everything for the next week's event in Rome. So I would love you to explain what are you doing at the SDG2 Advocacy Hub, but overall, what's going to happen? Because this is an important time in history. We have the G20 summit, we have the COP26, we have the UN Food System Summit, everything happening around our country. So we are pretty probably enthusiastic, but probably we don't understand yet the size of this opportunity. And on the other hand, we want to catch the opportunities that we're going to see. So tell us what is going to happen, how we can get involved, and how also your organization is going to activate tons of initiatives.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And so sorry I can't be with you in Pollica. I promise I will try and get there and see the beautiful space. I had dinner with Mark Brand yesterday, And he was explaining, he said, why have you not gone? He said, why are you not going to Polika? It's so amazing. So I will make sure that's a priority for the next space. But I'm joining you from Rome. In Rome at the moment, there obviously next week is going to be the UN Food System Pre-Summit. And so the Food System Summit was called by the Secretary General of the UN to address the Sustainable Development Goals, but to focus on the food system, to use the food system as a way to achieve progress around all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And it's an important time for this because, as we know, with the pandemic, with climate, all of the challenges that we're facing, there is a lot to do, and we need to see action happen fast. And so as you are focused around the G20 at the moment, there's all these connection points that are happening, and food is being recognized as a key contributor to this. The food system impacts and can help us to accelerate that change. And so in Rome, starting on Monday, there's going to be a series of activations around this pre-summit where there's going to be heads of state meeting, other civil society groups, private sector, UN agencies, scientists, chefs, farmers, all kinds of different contributors, entrepreneurs, sharing ideas. There'll be some people in Rome, and then there will be a huge opportunity, a number of people gathering online. And so this is a people's summit. It's a summit that's open to all. And so anyone can register, and it's going to be very much a hybrid, online and offline, like what we're doing now. And so anyone can go onto the site, they can log on and they can register, and they can watch the different sessions. They'll be translated into the UN languages, and they'll be able to access and interact with people there to hear what's going on. What are world leaders talking about? What are the challenges that we're trying to overcome? How are we going to transform our food system? And where should we be putting energy and coalitions and efforts to come together around the food system? And so I'm here, I'm working particularly, I'm very interested in what's going to come from this time, because I think this is a real awakening where we're understanding that the planet and our own health we need to look at together in the way that we produce, the way we consume, and the way we engage with food. And so it's exciting to see this attention. And this is all building towards the summit, which will be in September in New York, where hopefully we'll see even more commitments building on what happens this coming week. But to build more energy, more action, so that we can drive as we go towards COP. And as you mentioned, the climate events are all building together as well. But the hope is we can get back on track with our Sustainable Development Goals. We're off track at the moment. But I think if we all work together, we link arms, we get really innovative, we have high ambition, we can actually make those changes. And so that's what I'm excited about. We want to drive this idea of good food for all. Some of us get to enjoy good food, and I'm sure you're eating amazing food. I've heard about some of the food. I've heard about what you're gathering and how you're cooking and the enjoyment that's going on. But I'm hoping that this is something that everyone in the world needs to have access to, no matter what they define that as. Everyone's got different favorites, they've got different things, but our food should be good for people and planet. And that's what we're really trying to work hard towards, is how we can make that a reality for everyone. And so we encourage you to sign on to the UN Food System Summit, register. You can come in, see, participate, ask your questions, give your contributions. But I also ask you to get involved in the Good Food for All campaign and really support this idea. Tell us what you think good food means to you. Because I think if we don't hear all our voices, then we're not going to get the change that we need.
Thank you so much, Paul. I have a question for you, because on June 10th, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change has identified the biodiversity loss as one of the major issues for our entire humanity in this era. So I know that the Chef Manifesto is working a lot on protecting biodiversity. I would love to know if you have some tips where we can, say, find more solutions and what you're doing about those issues, because biodiversity came up also yesterday as one of the three main areas during the climate summit here at the ministerial meeting. Biodiversity, the efficient use of resources, and of course, all the issues related to finance to support this transition were the three main topics, but biodiversity was the first one. So, of course, when we talk about food, biodiversity loss is an issue. And through food and our food choices, we can do a lot to nudge the choices of consumers.
Yeah. No, I think it's very important. And as part of the Chef's Manifesto, we do focus around protecting biodiversity. And protecting biodiversity is really important, because what that means is that it really enables us to have a spread of different crops growing in a way that's giving back, because every plant reacts in different ways. They all play a role. And so if we just only plant one, or we focus on too few, then we lose some of the benefits that they bring through being a part of a system, an ecosystem, the way it was kind of created, the way that it kind of came in. And so we need that diversity there. It's also for our diet, because our diet, we were never meant to just eat one thing. You know, we're meant to eat lots of different things depending on where we live. You know, depending on where you live, there's things that grow naturally. And if you talk to indigenous communities, if you talk to people in different parts, I'm sure in Polica, there'll be things that have been there for thousands of years that people have learned how to work with and engage with. Mark was telling me about cooking with seawater and some dish that's very famous that, anyway, he was telling me about lots of ideas, but there's lots of different things that are biodiverse, and they bring interest to our diet. They bring livelihoods to our farmers and to our fisher folk. So this is really important. Biodiversity is really key. And I think chefs can play a role in this, because what they do is they help to introduce the diversity there, all these different ingredients in different ways, and they make them beautiful and tasty and engaging. And we then try them and we go, ooh, what's that? But if you just saw it, you wouldn't know what you could do. And so sometimes they then expand our horizon. And the more that we have a diverse diet, the more farmers and others will be able to actually protect that and grow that. And so we think it's a really important, biodiversity is really important. And the loss of biodiversity is actually a real challenge. It reduces the pantry, it reduces our options, because as the planet heats, as we go into, like we've seen the fires, the floods, all this stuff going on around the world, we need every single plant to know what's going to be the best option and going to thrive in the environments that we see coming. And so we need all of this. This is our insurance policy. It's our insurance policy of how we're going to be able to look after ourselves as a planet and how we can find the solutions, because plants have been adapting and animals for thousands of years, and we need this diversity. If we just have 5 things, then our options are very small. So we need thousands and thousands of options. So I think, you know, diversity for me, I'm glad to see that it's there alongside finance and other things, because once it's gone, it's gone. And so it's really important. And we're fighting for diversity in so many other areas of life. We need to also think about food.
Thank you so much. And when you are going to come here, you're going to discover that not only chefs, but also grandmas are rock stars on protecting biodiversity. So we really look forward to host you here in Polica and introduce you to the grandmas that you can find here.
I can't wait.
That's great. So I know that tomorrow morning there's going to be a big event in Rome with one of the initiatives of the Food Coalition that is going to be launched. And I think that this initiative, in which in some way we also are going to be connected with our friends of Coldiretti and the farmers market. So we're happy that you're going to be involved. So tomorrow morning, what is going to happen in Rome?
We're going to be visiting. So obviously the food system starts with farmers, you know, it's one of the key. And so we're going to be visiting Coldiretti to farmers market and be meeting with and hearing from some of the food producers from Italy, but also from around the world. And there's going to be different people gathering there, leaders from around the UN and globally, to talk and listen to farmers and hear those voices. And I think this is really critical, to start with the produce, to start with the people working in the land, and really hear from them. What are the issues that they're seeing? What are the changes they're seeing? And how do those things feed in? And then this is really important as we move into this summit, to really be focused on. And so it's going to be super exciting. I've been told it's a magical place with lots of amazing ingredients. And I've been told that even the food, the lunch, I don't know what will be there, but they said, I was talking with some farmers and they said, yeah, you can get some amazing flavors and tastes and ingredients that you can't find. So I'm excited to see how the event goes. And then it's going to be the start of just lots, like what you guys are doing now, lots of conversations and continued as we build in the coming weeks. So it's going to be super exciting.
That's amazing. There's no better way to start the UN food system pre-summit, starting with farmers that are the ones taking care of our earth. So yeah. Thank you so much, Paul, for being with us today. Even if you couldn't be here in presence, at least we had you with us, with your voice and here in video. Good luck for tomorrow. Good luck for the next days. And I wait for you in Polica.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. I can't wait to come and try some food with the grandmothers and everyone.
Benissimo.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's go on. So we have here another friend from US, Danielle Gold. We met almost 10 years ago. When 10 years ago, nobody was talking about food and tech, but she started what actually we can call today the most important platform, that is the Food Tech Connect, really highlighting which are the technologies and the innovators that are creating solutions to make our food system more sustainable. So when we met, we were at the beginning of our Future Food Institute explorations, and she was already there creating this platform and connecting the planet, because actually it's a global platform. You have people from all over the world in your platform. So I think it's really interesting to hear your voice in this conversation, because I think that in these 10 years, and also Simona can tell us, we have been seeing the food system completely changing and evolving very fast. 10 years ago, we were not aware about the issues related to food and environment, food and climate. No one was aware about all of those issues. But also technologies that has been created in this decade, I think changed so much. I think that the mind of innovators has changed. 10 years ago, there were, say, technologies that were just nice, right, making the food tastier. Now, I cannot meet any innovator that is not doing something meaningful and impactful. Impact is the first driver for all of that. So yesterday in the ministerial meeting, there were another topic that came up and was highlighted in the final declaration. That was the efficient use of resources and everything related to circular economy, and the fact that we need really now to make sure we are not losing anything because we are running out of resources. So I would love to hear from you what you're seeing happening now in the food tech system, and how do you see that basically industries can accelerate this transition? Do you think that the startups are working more with industries? How do you see the finance moving along the food chain, supporting youth? What do you see from your global perspective?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I don't think this is on. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, it's been incredible to see what's happened over the last 10 years. I mean, when we got started, I was tracking the organizations and companies that were working at the intersection of food, technology, data, agriculture, and there were about 50 organizations, including the FAO, right? And now, I mean, we've lost count, but there are, in our database, we had over 10,000 companies, every large multinational company, every agribusiness. And when we got started, you know, we started hosting these hackathons. We started talking about using technology to share information and open innovation. And people said, you're crazy. Companies are never going to share data. Farmers will never share data. And here we are within just 10 years. To see the transformation is just astounding. And I think that was version 1. You know, and actually we've had version 2. I think we've had kind of 2 versions of innovation. So at first it was really around, how do I find the best restaurant, right? Or meal kits. And now we have this new wave, right, where you've had a lot of investment in the ag tech space, right, around precision agriculture. You're having a lot of investment in alternative proteins, right, because of the impact that animal protein has on our planet. And we're also starting to see a lot around carbon capture and ecosystem service marketplaces. And also around reducing food waste. There's a huge area and a move towards more circularity. One of the things that I brought up yesterday in the discussion, and one of the things that I've been thinking quite a bit about is I'm known for tracking innovation trends and technology. And we can have the best technologies in the world, but if we want to regenerate our systems, we can't regenerate our systems truly using degenerative finance and business models, right? Which control so much of the way that companies act or an initiative acts. And so I'm at the beginning of this journey. I think a lot of people are. And I would say after the past year, I've done a lot of studying, but I have more questions than answers. And I think that that's an important place that we should all be at, because I don't think that they're necessarily, we figured out the right model, but doing an investigation into what does regenerative finance or what does more inclusive, equitable finance look like? What do business models look like that more equitably distribute value and are built in an inclusive way that includes all of the stakeholders, right? We use term stakeholders right now, but most people are not actually truly stakeholders. And a lot of that starts with the farmers, right? Whether you're a big food company, agribusiness company, whether you're developing technology, right? So much of what we have designed actually squeezes the farmers. We're asking, you know, everyone else in the value chain makes so much more money than the farmers. And so I think that right now there are some emerging business models that are really interesting. There's the evolution of cooperatives, right? Which is something that I'm really excited about. There are cooperatives that would enable you to still bring in venture capital or debt, but that it's shared across a cooperative. There's a model called the steward model, which I think is really interesting, that decouples voting rights from economic rights. And so you can hold the company in a trust, and it would enable the people who work at the company, who understand the company, who are actually the stewards of the company, to actually control the fate of the company, which is separate from who owns and invests in the company. There are models like the Capital Institute is doing a lot of work around regenerative finance, and they've developed 8 principles that are really useful guides for how you might think about how to structure your business. And then there are a number of different organizations like Fibershed and Green Wave that are really trying to think about how do we build community-based business models that again distribute value equitably. So again, more questions than answers. And I think that this is something that I hope I'm going to be working quite a bit to bring people along on this journey as we investigate what the models look like.
And this is super interesting. And this came up also yesterday when Gramenos Mastroianni was talking about the biggest need we have also in the Mediterranean area. So we see that the successful models are always focused on cooperation, collaboration, working together. And we know also watching the SDGs and watching how might we implement the 17 SDGs, we know that the only way is to cooperate. And for sure, we are also seeing that we are moving towards the perspective that we've been focused on an ecosystem until yesterday. And now people are understanding that we are in an ecosystem where we have to develop a different mindset. And of course, things like the case that you are sharing with us are very much focused on moving from the concept of pure competition to the approach of the co-petition, so working together to compete in the market. So it's pretty interesting what you're sharing, and I want you to share also what you think about the different say environments that you are exploring here in Italy, because you live in New York, and for sure you have been seeing many community-based case histories, successful case history where you live, but the environment that you are exploring now are pretty different, but represent also the majority of the rural areas in the world. A tiny island, a small village where there are fishermen and farmers, and they live out of that. So it's a very simple environment, as well as we can consider all the rural areas in the center of Italy, or also here in Polica. We need different kind of business model to live in this kind of environment. So what is your feeling? What are you learning here? What are the questions that come up in your mind?
So I don't know that there has been questions. I think that so I've had the chance to spend nearly 2 weeks with you in Marettimo, which is a small island of 300 people in Sicily, and then here in Polica. And I've been overwhelmed by the generosity of people and the love of the land and of community. And I think that I mean, completely being brought to tears and actually feeling like I'm a better human because of experiencing that generosity. And I think that when we design we have to design from that place our business models, from a place of love and generosity. And so that's why it's hard to say this model or that model, because it actually has to be that you're coming, when you design from a place of love, you make completely different choices. And so I think that that's my biggest takeaway, is how do we give people these kinds of experiences? How do we open up their hearts? How do we give them that like heart aha moment? We're so used to having these like head-based, intellectual aha moments, but how do you just burst someone's heart open? Because that's the key. That's the thing that's missing, when it comes to sustainability.
Okay, I'm not alone. I'm happy. I'm happy to hear that. This is just because this is the reason why that the reason that pushed us to open up the campus here. When we explored Polica in this land, this was exactly the feeling, and I was feeling the need to share that with our global community and to create a campus to allow other people to experience that, because I strongly believe that living in a city, it's not giving you the opportunity to understand which are the real values of life. And here you can clearly understand that. And you can clearly also understand that the word reciprocity and the golden rule and the basic elements of life that all the religions embed, that all the good patron that we know in history have been telling us were true. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I completely share the same feelings. And we have been talking about farmers, we've been talking about rural areas. We know that this is the starting point of a very big industry. And so I'm very glad to have in this journey, during these days with us, Simona Caselli. And I wanted her to be with us because she is a kind of a rock star. And no, I would say this is true. when you talk about agriculture, she's been the secretary for agriculture in our region in Emilia-Romagna, that is one of the region in Italy that is, of course, that is counting a lot when we talk about agriculture, when we talk about many of the iconic chains representing Italy around the world. And I've been sharing many experiences in Italy and abroad together with Simona, and I see her now running very interesting diplomatic battles also at the European level. And of course, the debate is always to consider the needs and the rights and the evolution of the farming system and of the farmers. But of course, combining that with the needs of a huge food chain that needs to feed the planet, where there are industries involved, and those industries, everybody thinks that the big ones are bad, but we need to care about them because they can make a big impact. So we need to help them to make the change anyway. Maybe they're not going to turn all organic, but if they're going to make the normal way of producing more sustainable, is going to be already a big thing. So I'm saying it's kind of a rock star because it's not so easy to deal within the complexity of the food system, trying to keep in mind the rights of the people working behind the scene of the food chain. And on the other hand, to find a balance with the need of produce that we have. So dealing with industry. So Europe is going to say run a very strong policy to advance the food system, at least the European food system, the European agricultural system, making it more sustainable. I know that also youth, Greta Thunberg and many movements were against that. But analyzing the papers and analyzing the numbers, also I would say, thanks to you that you are giving me different lens to read them, you're understanding that is very complex to understand and is very complex to really find a balance between what is needed and which are the regulation and the goals that we want to achieve. So I would love you to share how Europe is moving on and how do you think that industries can also take advantages of these new strategies? Because anyway, to move on, you need finance also to support this transition, because we cannot just rely on the shoulders of farmers saying, hey, you need to change, because they need help.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, particularly for this presentation. I have never been presented as a rock star in my thoughts. So I'm an economist, you know, it said sad science, so it's kind of this. Well, I guess now I will try and give you an idea of what's going on in the new European policies on food. But first of all, I have to say, and it's very, very important what you said before about the fact you cannot look into agriculture and in general food system from only a urban point of view. This is a big mistake you're not going to do here, and actually this is exactly what we need, because sometimes even in the law process and even in deciding regulation, the urban point of view has an excessive role. I mean it because when you look at the CAP, the new Common Agricultural Policy in Europe, I had exactly this impression. The urban point of view, people that doesn't know how it's complicated to do agriculture now with the climate change, with new insects, with droughts, alternative to floods, to enormous events we never experienced in our life. And you cannot think, you can say, well, let's go organic. Find this is easy, because you have to go organic. You know, I doubled organic in Emilia-Romagna from 8 to 16%, and now the objective of the Funtofork Strategy is to go up to 25% by 2030. Yeah. So in 9 years, to arrive to 25%, which is big, because in Italy we are at 17 now, more or less, but Poland is 3%. So there are complicated situations, but it's also complicated because even if you put there lots of money in order to encourage farmers to do the transformation and the transition to organic, there are technical problems, because if you have new pests coming from the climate change, it's complicated to do organic. So you need more technologies, you need more education, technical support. And this is a system that must go at the same time, because otherwise you lose the chain at some point. Why I say I think the new policy in Europe is quite, I guess, high in its objective, and because there's the Funtofork Strategy. Last year in May, Vice President Timmermans presented together with the Sante Commissioner Kyriakides this new holistic strategy, which concerns farmers, but also transformation, packaging, transport, consumers, education, and waste. So the entire cycle, the entire food system. With this holistic view, they put in place 27 new rules to do. So they declare which kind of law or regulation they were going to change and when, and they are keeping the list and the schedule. And then the idea was to have a holistic approach to the fact we have to be more sustainable and cope with climate change. In the public debate, we talked a lot about the agronomical point of view. So 25% of organic, the lowering 50% of the use of pesticides, 50% of the use of antibiotics in livestock. And of course, the fact that we need to put more attention on soil. So there is the carbon farming, there is the several activities in order to do that. We are talking a bit less on what should happen in the rest of the chain, particularly in the transformation, in the transport activity, in the packaging with new materials, and also on the consumer point of view, because it's very, very important what's happening there. First of all, because there's an unfairness in the division of the value. So new value chains should be more transparent in order to understand what's the value added and how to divide it fairly together with the farmer, the first point, which now is over squeezed in the chain. The other thing is, while you ask for more sustainability on the farmers, you have to be more sustainable in all the rest of it. Because sometimes it happens that when you talk to environmental people, and I'm considering one of them actually, they talk about agriculture as the fact that the GHG gas emission from agriculture are 13%. At the global level, yes, but you can do something. And for example, in Italy, where we did something in the latest years, it's 7. At the European level, it's 10. So it depends on what you do and how you do it. Because there's only one activity in agriculture which is impacting on this, and which is livestock activity. Does it mean we have to ban livestock activity? I think it's impossible, because we should add another problem of sustainability, which is the social one. Because without livestock, all the mountain agriculture is closing. It's closing down. There's no way. On the mountain, you can do that. And on the other side, livestock activity gave us something which is precious for the soil, for the quality of the soil. So the point is, we have to manage to do better in that activity in the circular economy, because we have to bring what is damaging and making some in atmosphere or in the water and transforming in biomethane, for example. We should do it because we already have biogas activity. We should do another step. Technology is there, all the system is there, even money is there now with these new policies, and we should do it. And we must stop deforestation, which is the other point, which is not exactly agriculture, but it's environment. Deforestation is not particularly a European problem, as we know, it's a Brazilian one, but also in some other parts of the planet. In Europe, we should do better, for example, for the forest management. And then, because I'm being a bit long, just another thing. In precision farming, we talk about precision farming because we are here, we are studying food systems, but nobody knows outside what are the precision farming. I'm full of friends, even people with a good culture. What is precision farming? So we still have to explain. Now farming is completely different. You do it with lots of technology. In the future, there would be more engineers in a farm than people working with their hands. So we should explain this because the farming activity is not so impacting and can find solutions in period of climate change only with technology. Otherwise, with less water, with less pesticides, with less chemistry, which is good, but you cannot afford the food security because we need enough food for a growing population. So this is complicated, but we have the possibility now to do that because of technology, and we must spread this, support it, and keep this holistic thing in balance. The balance should be always in every discussion between environmental, social, and economic part. There are three dimensions. Because sometimes in the debate, I understand something is losing, but we must keep them together because agriculture is an economic activity and you can lose it. And we are seeing lots of young farmers coming in. They are doing organic immediately. They are perfectly aware of the SDGs. They are good ones. They have studied, and we cannot disappoint them. So we must support them, but we must also support their project of life, the fact they must live with their family, with agriculture.
Thank you, Simona. Thank you, Simona, because you picked some of the most interesting pain points. And there is something that every time catch my attention. We've been mentioning, let's say, proteins and livestock. I think that this is a very hot topic. Every time I get an interview, it's always about the future of proteins. But you were highlighting, I think, one of the most interesting point of view that I always try to stress. So here in Italy, for example, we've been now living this trend of the new foods and new kind of meat, for example. But people do not understand really what's the impact of their choices. If you compare, even if we love Beyond Meat, they're friends and they're doing incredible success since the beginning when we met them the first time. But then, if you consider what's the impact of my choice eating a Beyond Burger, maybe in Bologna, where this Beyond Burger yet is done in California, and you consider how many kilometers, how many miles this burger did, compared to the little cow coming from Porretta Terme, a few miles away from our home, where there is a farmer taking care of the cows and keep going with the traditional way of farming and so on, and the value of this farmer for this little ecosystem. This is
the mountain come down.
Exactly. This is a very simple example, but that let you understand the complexity that we can find behind food and our food choices, because sometimes we have been simplifying all the messages in communication. And it's important to connect all of that with education. And I'm connecting to Sonia with that, because here, choosing to involve you I think I try to pick three different voices that can show us three different perspectives of the food system, starting from innovation, technology, and how innovation can nudge this transition, but also the voice of the industry, the voice of the farming, the voice of big farming that anyway are feeding the planet. But then with Sonia, that now is also the leader of our Future Food Academy, we're working a lot with local communities and we're working a lot with youth. During these days, we've been exploring with youth, which are the challenges that communities are facing. We have been talking about biodiversity, we have been talking about resources, we have been talking about the cultural level of all the actions we're doing, but anyway, the importance of culture behind food. And so I would love you to share some thoughts about that, because I think that what we're doing needs the mindset of a designer, and she's a great designer and food system designer. So I think that is interesting to see from your perspective, which are the new frontiers and how we can design together a better food system.
Right, I think, is it working? No? Okay, does. I think we were talking about cost in different way. I think one of the costs of the transition is also the investment that we have to do in terms of competences. And many times when you talk about culture or education, people are like thinking about knowledge. And the competence comes only when you have to go to a job. Like, okay, they need a job, let's give them the competence, but this comes too late. We need to start thinking about competences, maybe in primary school or before, because the issue that I believe youth nowadays really need, but not only youth, I think everybody is to face the crisis, to face the uncertainty, to face the systems that goes and change. You were asking, Danielle, about if there is a model. The issue is that there is no a model. So that's why the people need competences, because they need to figure out their role inside of many different models. So bringing people from, and I'm going to connect with what you were saying, bringing people from cities, coming here and learning about food systems seems to be very controversial. Like, why you're bringing someone from Milan or Rome and showing the perfect quality of life of people here in the middle of nowhere. Sorry for nowhere, but really to come here, it takes time. And to see that here there is a circularity coming out every single day in their daily life, something that for us teaching this in Rome or in Milan, it takes months, because you have to bring people to see, I mean, for seeing a field, to see an agriculture field, you have to bring them outside of the city and teaching them that the food comes from there, and it takes time and it costs money and it costs people, because you know, distribution is not just one person coming with a truck, but there are many people involved, and it costs money to bring food in the center of the city, because you have to pay for parking to get through. This is something that the people don't think about it. And so it's much easier to go to the GDO and take food than getting, you know, quality food and coming in. So what does it mean this? This is food culture. And unfortunately, food culture many times is just like describe it, like the holistic view of culture, like cuisine or culinary arts. But food culture means how people design their food system, following their needs, their rights, and their obligation. I'm talking about right and obligation because this was a very focal point of our discussion with youth here in Polica, because we asked them to think about rights and obligation of the Mediterranean citizen. So who is a Mediterranean citizen? First was the first question. Are we Mediterranean? And guessing, talking with Italian students, asking themselves, am I Mediterranean or not? It's already part of the cultural experience and cultural discovery. And after that, you can start talking and teaching them the food system, the Mediterranean system, the other system behind, the global system and the food diplomacy that is behind that. Otherwise, you cannot start from food diplomacy to our daily life. We need to bring them to understand how, with their choices, with their action, with their family also composition, who is part of your family and how is acting that, how this is going to impact globally on many things. So let's go back to the competences. I think one of the key points that you touched many times is the technology. And there is a tricky question. It's like a quiz I give to the students at the university level, but we use it also here. And I give them a slide with 2 lines. On the line on the top, you got Gino il contadino, Gino the farmer, who is a farmer bringing and cultivating organic food in his own field since, I don't know, the 50s. And then you got a beekeeper that works every single day with his passion to get the bees. And then you got a Parmesan producer who is an artisan producing his own food since the 50s in the same way and trying to get global accepted and to get in their food in the market. And then on the line on the back down, I got Jack the farmer market and the vertical farmer. So the precision farmer we were touching before, who is this guy? What kind of technology is using? I got a beekeeper that used digital technology to produce and helps the bees to survive. And I got the food designer with a 3D printer and an automatized restaurants. And the question that I'm asking also to all of you is now I give you money, 10,000 euro, where do you invest your money for the future? And guess 99% invest their money down in the bottom line because they believe this is the future. And they said, those are my money. Why I have to invest on the traditional farmer or in a Parmesan artisanal? I'm going to invest on what I believe is the future. And then I immediately after say, thank you, give me your explanation. Now we go back to another question, which is now I give you 10,000 euro, you have to buy your food for the next 2 years. Where do you buy your food? And all of them are buying the food on the line on the top to the farmer, to the beekeeper, and to the artisan, and say, we need to preserve them. And also those are best quality food.
Thank you.
And it's like, hey guys, those are kind of choice that every people does every day. Where do we invest? In what they told you is the future, or what do you believe is our life? So they start to discuss. Usually we got a really very good debate on, and the ending of the story is there's no black and white. All of both sides will be there in the present and the future. What we had to do is to give the people the competences of choosing, first of all, because they can get food from the line on the top and food from the line on the bottom line. But secondly, we need to create bridges between competences, because the farmer, the Gino farmer, need the knowledge and competences of the vertical farmer and the precision farming approach. On the other side, I believe the vertical farmer need to know from Gino all the knowledge and the culture that he learned year by year with his own experience and the territory that is around and the connection he does have. And of course, what was his own experiences. Secondly, the B means biodiversity. We touched biodiversity many times as a keyword, but this is a super abstract word if you're not able to translate it on daily life. And so the beekeeper, who cares if it use digital technology or not, if we can preserve the biodiversity and we can survive in this planet, right? So let's go and give them a connection in terms of education. That's where I want to go. And where is the lack? We do have it. And the third is the most controversial, because you can ask someone to eat a pizza made with a robot, but when you ask them to eat a Parmesan made by a 3D printer, they're saying, well, you know what, I just prefer the traditional one. And the issue is that this is already the future, and the future bring us on the same kind of values. We want healthy food, we want good food, and of course, we want to be safe in this planet. So if both of the solutions are going in this direction, let's use both. We don't need to get the fear, and this is something we touched many times. We do have fear. We are afraid of what we don't know. So we need to know exactly how the system works, because if we know how they work, we will be able to be part of as a citizen, as a consumer, as a professionist, because all of those young people we had here, in less than 5 years, they will be our manager, our educator, our farmer, our everything. So we need to educate them to be part of this system. And we touched the importance of the systemic approach, which is not an approach, it is a mindset. That's really important. That's the lack in education. We need to work on mindset and circularity, transdisciplinarity, co-design approach. All of those keywords that you were listing are part of this mindset. So what we have to do, we have to bring people, maybe in areas like those that are providing us a tangible view of what does it mean a food system, to give them the key to understand their own system, wherever they are, in the United States, in South of America, in north of Italy, or wherever in Asia, because what they really need are just the key to understand the system. And this, I believe, is one of the main challenges the schools, the education system has to do. If we can provide our support, means that we are able just to bring school and real world more connected and closer. So this is our approach, and this is what we want to do.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I
That's why
think
you're
that
special.
exactly. And you're closing the loop. So just before we're ending, give us one word. Each of you, one word we should keep in mind and we should work on. You start from you.
It's a phrase. We don't need to invent anything. We just need to understand what we have to get in those opportunities for our future. So don't invent, try to find it.
Well, my word is obviously my word is cooperation. Because I'm a cooperator, but not only for that, because now you can do everything we say this evening only by cooperating at local, international level, at every level, but we need cooperation because we have to find a solution and we have to cooperate for the planet, because otherwise we will lose the planet. And we have to cooperate to find a solution and to spread them, because a small farmer isn't able, of course, to apply a precision agriculture system. So only together with others in his community, but even in a bigger community, we can do that. And we need this, and we need this quickly all over the world. So the only way is cooperating.
I love it. Danielle.
Awesome responsibility. So I think that it's an awesome responsibility to work in food to nourish people and to nourish the planet and to nourish communities. And so if we start from that place, if we start from a place of love and generosity, again, we make such different decisions.
Bellissimo. I love your words. And
What is yours?
I would say take it from the integral perspective, connecting all the dots, because we need all the different perspectives to achieve what you were all saying. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We need this kind of thinking to be spread within industries, within schools, within the broader society. And we're gonna come back in an hour and a half, and we're gonna talk about open diplomacy in Italiano, because we need to change the language sometime. And this is another step, talking about how we can involve the broader society in diplomatic processes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Food for Earth G20 edition, part of the All for Climate agenda. Bye-bye from Polica. Ciao. Oh, sì, c'era il live. Non
I
li
just
vedi.
moved it because I couldn't see your eyes. It was like, I'm the angel.
Sai, mentre parlavi mi venivo così, il robot.